Perhaps the most obvious is that incomes haven't kept up with rising housing costs. Between 2001 and 2021, the average price of a single-family home in Canada more than tripled, while the cost of everything else rose only 43%. The result is that homes are too expensive for many Canadians. On top of that, there just aren't enough of them. The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation estimates that by the end of this decade, Canada will need an extra 3.5 million homes. That's on top of the more than 2.3 million new housing units already predicted to be built by then. But this crisis is about much more than just supply and demand. Single-family zoning, divestment from social housing, decades of low interest rates that encourage the commodification of housing, and short-term vacation rentals have all contributed, along with many other factors. British Columbia and Toronto have recently eliminated most single-family zoning in an effort to increase the housing supply. But if Canada is going to make housing more affordable, or at least attainable, then it will need to make many more changes. That's why I wrote this book. After reporting on this issue for more than 25 years, I want to see more people move into secure housing. I've reported on housing and homelessness more times than I can remember. I've interviewed hundreds of people about this: renters, landlords, buyers, sellers, developers, real estate agents, homeless people, housing advocates, builders, building inspectors, market analysts, economists, municipal councillors, mayors, housing ministers, premiers, and prime ministers. It's not that I'm obsessed by the issue of housing, though it has always interested me, so much as the fact that the issue has dominated life in British Columbia for as long as I've lived here, and it's only got worse both here and across a lot of the rest of the country. It took many years before it finally dawned on me exactly how big the problem is. It may seem counterintuitive, but this epiphany came to me not at work, but at home, when my wife and I received our 2021 property assessment in the mail. The number seemed to scream out at me as soon as I ripped open the envelope. $1.3 million. Our 110-year-old ramshackle wood frame house was worth a fortune. I felt a brief moment of jubilation and even heard the Bare Naked Ladies singing in my head. If I had $1 million, I'd be rich. But my momentary elation at our newfound wealth on paper was eclipsed almost immediately by a sobering realization. There is no way I could afford to buy my house today. I thought back 17 years to when we bought our first house in Vancouver. I remembered the nagging suspicion that the $305,000 price tag would lead us to financial ruin. Little did we know it would be the best financial decision we'd ever make. Sure, we have another decade or so of mortgage payments in front of us, but we're extremely lucky. Today, my journalist salary, combined with my wife's teacher salary, simply wouldn't be enough to buy that house or the one I now call home. I thought of my young colleagues who don't have the same opportunity I had simply because they were born too late. Then I thought of my kids. How will they ever afford homes of their own? And where? If these sound like the middle-class concerns of someone who's relatively fortunate, well, that's because they are. I own a safe house in a beautiful city. It's walking distance to schools, shops, and the beach. Everyone should be so lucky. And I know my kids will likely be able to rely on at least some financial help from their parents in the future, a factor that matters more and more these days, and only exacerbates intergenerational inequalities. But this book isn't about me or my family. It's about the millions of Canadians who are struggling with unaffordable housing and the impact it's having on both them and the country as a whole. This book tells the stories of Canadians who are suffering due to the lack of affordable housing in this country. It also profiles people in other countries who have benefited from changes that could work here. As a journalist, I've heard countless tales of struggle over the years, but in writing this book, I've heard many success stories too. They've convinced me that there is no single measure that will fix this problem. Instead, most or even all